Hey there, this is Beth at the Sweet Urban Living podcast, and I am really excited to talk to Greg today, our guest for our podcast on our Healer's Journey series. And this is going to be a really good podcast. I know it is because this is the second time we've tried to record it. And so I just know it's got to be good. When you have to do it again, it means this something extra special. Today, I'm thrilled to welcome Greg Adame to the show. Greg has spent a lifetime in and around modern medicine, and he knew by the age of 8 that he was destined to be a paramedic because his daycare was an ER. And he vividly remembers the adrenaline and the urgency of patients arriving on stretchers. Now, with over 20 years of experience in EMS and 9/11, Greg serves as a lieutenant firefighter paramedic on a busy rescue ambulance. But recently, he felt a calling to take a different path, a divinely inspired shift that led him to pursue new ways of helping and serving others, even if it meant stepping away from the role he'd always envisioned. Greg joins us today to share his journey, the lessons learned on the front lines, and how he's navigating this bold new direction in his life and career. So as I share that, Greg, I want to make sure we're clear. You're still a firefighter. You're still in service as a firefighter. You've just taken on an additional role. Is that correct?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've changed my direction a little bit.
Okay.
I definitely am still very much involved and still working as a paramedic and as a firefighter. I have just under 2 years left, and then I'll be retired.
You're a little young for retirement.
Everybody says that. I hear that a lot every time I tell people. But I'll be hitting my goal. I'll be one of the very few people in my family to actually retire.
Wow.
My grandparents and beyond, they all worked until they died. So I'll be 49 when I'm retired, and then I'll be 50 that same year.
Okay.
So
congratulations on that. Well, and see that the one reason that I am really excited to have you as part of the show is because you've got your feet in what we call the allopathic field, where medicine is involved, and we're very thankful for you and all you do. My son is he is a paramedic. He does not serve as a firefighter in the county that he serves. They are two distinct roles, but right. I know that from hearing some of his stories and not hearing some of his stories, just how vital the paramedics, the firefighters are in the service that y'all provide. So thank you for that, of course. But I found it really interesting when you said that your daycare was an ER. So I want to come to the point of what got you involved in natural health care, but I definitely am so intrigued with your daycare being an ER. That sounds a little interesting. There's a story there.
Yeah, it's definitely a story. So growing up, my parents worked in the ER, and it was a small town ER. I think it was probably 8 or 9 beds. It wasn't very big, but my stepmom was the charge nurse, and then my dad worked in lab and X-ray, and he was a surgical technician. So he had a bunch of different jobs in there, and he. One of them would have to get off work for me to go home. So after school, like I said, that was my daycare. I'd go to the emergency room, sit in the waiting room, which is funny because I don't think anybody would do that with their kids these days.
Not today.
But it was definitely a different time. I mean, I sat in the waiting room, and I was a little kid, so of course I'd get bored, and I think I would get tired of looking at the vending machine and stuff like that. So I'd sneak into the ER. And they all kind of knew it, and all the nurses were nice to me. And, obviously my stepmom being the charge nurse, they kind of let a little bit of stuff go. But I really saw a lot of things, I think, as a kid that probably shouldn't have been looking at, peeking in the curtains of the ER. But at the time, there was no trauma centers. There was no specialty hospitals like that. So those ERs got everything from gunshots to just the general sick person. So I really got a taste for that. And And then being at home, obviously our dinner time conversations were a little bit different. They talked about their day, and I'm a little kid, and I'm wondering what's all this stuff that they're talking about. So I think I was kind of destined to go into this field. I kind of knew early on that I was going to be a paramedic, at least. So, and then getting to this point, I found out I had to be a firefighter also. So that was just part of it. I went to firefighter school. I was in the Navy, so I did most of everything in the Navy, including my paramedic. And so when I got out of the service, I jumped right into this. So.
Wow, that is such a cool story. And like you said, it would not happen these days, but it's really interesting how those moments probably spoke to you, and they defined who you were going to become later, because it was like you knew, it was like, man, this is my calling, this is my gift, this is what I want to be when I grow up.
For sure.
That's so cool. Okay, so you went into the Navy and you served time there. You came out. Your heart is is medicine, the healing side, but you became a firefighter because that was required. And and that's really cool. So, what happened? I'd love to hear how you shifted from, okay, I'm all into ER, emergency medicine, helping people, to exploring the natural health field. What happened to change that?
So I think there's a couple different things, and I remember we talked about this the first time we tried this, and way back in the day, there were these magazines, and in the back of these magazines you could find correspondence courses, right? So, and I remember being little. I mean, I was probably maybe 11 or 12ish or so, and thinking to myself, like, reading these articles or reading these advertisements, and it says you can be a naturopathic doctor.
Wow.
Correspondence courses, you send the courses back and forth. You do the coursework, you do the worksheets, that kind of stuff. So I remember getting this packet, and it was a little paper packet, and it had maybe 10 pages in it, but it had herbal type stuff in there, just different, like ginkgo biloba and, rosemary and things like that, and what they could do for a person. So I remember doing that, and I did send out for it, and I did get the paperwork back, but being a kid, I didn't follow through with it, obviously, but I can't remember always having just in the back of my mind, like, this is something that is probably something that I'm interested in doing and pursuing and learning about. And I always say, like you mentioned how faith has a play with the stuff that we do in natural medicine. It really does. I think that it was one of those little nudges on the back of my brain that, from God, that said, hey, this is a direction I want you to go.
Yeah.
And so at the time, obviously, like I said, I was a kid and didn't listen like every other kid.
So when you say kid, are we talking about preteens or teenage years?
I think I was probably around 12 or 13.
Okay.
Very young. I mean, I always had an interest in researching things. I get that from my grandfather. He wouldn't necessarily teach me something, but he would show me where to find it.
Oh.
Whether, in books and research and going to the library, stuff like that. So I kind of had an upbringing with that.
Yeah.
But finding that I could do these correspondence courses unguided was interesting to me. But I think at the end of the day, I just had more fun things to do, like ride my bike and, all that stuff that we do as 12, 13-year-olds. So, but then I kind of went from there. Just throughout time, I've still had an interest in it. I've got a whole library of books. I've got more books than I can imagine. My first book I think I bought was Rosemary Gladstar.
Excellent.
Herbal. Yeah, so that's where I got started with that, and just reading her stuff and figuring out I could make my own tinctures and teas and things like that, and not need pharmaceuticals was a big thing for me.
Yeah.
We don't do very many, if no pharmaceuticals here at home. I've got 2 kids, and so that really pushed me to really get more knowledge in that direction as far as how to take care of them when they're sick and not have to rush to the doctor.
Is that when you started taking the herbology course where I met you?
So I was kind of already doing it before then. So I have a 11-year-old, and when she was born, my wife and I, we kind of had a general idea about things, that maybe that we wanted to raise her in a more natural way, as opposed to like doing vaccinations and stuff like that, and doing the Motrin, the Tylenol, all the things that you get when you go to the doctor. I think my very first victory with that was fixing her ear infection that she got.
Oh, wow.
Just by using just something completely natural. We did garlic, olive oil drops. We did that 10 days in both ears, and then lo and behold, with no antibiotics, she was fine.
Yeah.
And so we did even go to the doctor later on and have her get rechecked, because they want us to come in, and the doctor said, well, the infection's gone.
Excellent.
What did you guys do? And
and there you go.
Yeah, they weren't 100% receptive to it, but he said, okay, well, if it's gone, it's gone, and you need to come back, and here's your antibiotic prescription if you need it, but we never used it. So
I've been there. I've done that. I've had, one of my oldest daughter also had ear infections all the time, and between either lavender essential oil or garlic. And there was even one time I had not made up anything ahead of time. So I just went and got some garlic and some oil and put it in let it simmer for just a little bit, let it cool down. The next morning, she was like, all done. So that was, it really does work. Herbs work. They help support the body. And so you started, helping your family with that. And tell me, okay, so explain the timeline, because there's the shift. And like you said, we talked about this the time before, so we're going to get into that again. But it was like, were you taking classes? That's where we met, was in the Trinity Herbology program.
Right.
And then you came to one of our Brilliant Health Weekend of Way events, and we did the Herbal Boot Camp, which was fabulous. And there's our coffee mug. Awesome. And so you already had some experience, and you already doing it. In fact, you brought some herbal tinctures that you had blended already to the Herbal Boot Camp, and you shared with me. In fact, you shared, I think it was the lemon balm and something for the thyroid and something for hair with rosemary. And so, they're great tinctures. They're awesome, and they really work. So you already had some experience. So you're exploring this, but did you start doing that in earnest for any particular reason? I mean, tell me more, because I know there's a story that we're trying to get to of how you were impacted.
Yeah. And so basically, for about 10 years, I mean, it took me that long, I think, to finally go to school. Now I ended up being kind of like the resident guru for all of this stuff for family members and friends. And, they really do rely on me for a lot of different things when it comes to natural medicine. And my kind of end goal was, now I need the certificate with the gold seal on it. I need the certification. I had kind of got to that point, but I hadn't taken the step to go to school yet. And then, COVID hit. And so just in doing that process and going through that process with Western medicine and the allopathic side, and not only that, but going on, we go on a lot of calls, so 911 calls. And during COVID, it was on steroids. We went to so many people that had COVID, or they had the COVID symptoms, and they didn't know what to do. They'd been to the hospital. They'd taken the medications that they were given, if there were any at the time. That kind of shifted to, but we got to the point to where our EMS system changed a little bit, and they didn't want all of us exposed to whatever COVID is when we showed up on scene. So there was a lot of times when I'd walk up, and our engine companies would be there. So that's 3 or 4 guys, and they'd be standing outside, and the patient would be looking through the blinds, looking at us and waiting to see what's going to happen. But I think I kind of put it in my mind that I wasn't going to be scared. I wasn't going to have any fear. I do a lot of things on my own to boost my immune function just on a daily basis anyway. So and knock on wood, I never got sick. I never got whatever COVID was. So, but I'd walk into these people's houses and the blinds were closed. It was dark in there. They were sitting there just waiting. And I hate to say it, but in some cases they were waiting to see if they're just going to die or not.
Oh man.
Because they had no recourse, they had no guidance.
Oh wow.
It was a very scary thing, and I could feel a lot of times. I could feel that fear. And to be honest, just kind of sitting there talking to them for 10 minutes, you could kind of see the relief on their face sometimes. And I can say this now because I won't get in trouble anymore, but, I did give them some guidance, and I would sit down with them and we'd go online, and I'd show them like, look here, let's take these vitamins and let's try this supplementation, go outside, get some sun. There's a lot of different things that people could do that they just didn't ever have anybody say to them. I also went to a house to where we went to every single family member except for there's the son and the daughter, I think, was the ones that were end up left. The grandfather died, the mother died, or the grandmother died, mom and dad died. And so
oh my
ended up
goodness.
being just a teenage son with his sister that was left. So COVID went through that house.
Did they all live in the same house?
Yeah, that was a tough one. And so we serve a lot of different parts of the community. And that particular one was they didn't have a lot. They didn't go to the hospital. They didn't want to go to the hospital because they knew it was going to generate a bill. So I tried to help where I could. But unfortunately, like I said, we did go. I took the grandma, I took the grandmother, I took the father, I took the mother out of there, took them to the hospital, and they didn't come home. So that was a big thing.
It was hard on them, the family, but it's hard on you too, as the one responding to the call and seeing family member after family member after family member.
Yeah, it was just a hard time, I think, for everybody. And not only that, we had no guidance on anything really. There was no, I think, so we were in Florida. They did the monoclonal antibodies and that kind of stuff. That was a thing. They had that, but then they took that away when they found out it started to work. Then it was the Paxlovid, which is the repurposed HIV antivirals, which don't work. I've seen that not work so many times. If I had a nickel for every time, I had to have a lot of nickels.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. All right. So let me just pause this because we're going to come back to your story a little bit, but you're saying you didn't get sick at all. Now I did, and I used herbs to help, but you said you didn't get sick at all. So what would you attribute that to? Because you told me that too.
I just feel like sometimes there's some divine guidance out there.
Yeah.
Whether we realize it or not, I think this particular instance, I decided to listen.
That's always good.
To what was. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, when you don't listen, you suffer a little bit.
Listening is good. Okay.
Yeah, I've had that a lot the last 15, 20 years where it's instantaneous. You decide to listen and you can see the results. When you decide to not listen, you see the results.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that was part of it. Right before COVID came out, I was already kind of in the market for like good supplementation. I was on vitamin C, vitamin D, quercetin, NAC,
wow,
NAD plus,
all the things
So I say I got lucky, but I think that would be disrespectful for me to say it was luck.
Yeah,
because I don't think it was. And I think I knew that as I saw this start to happen, I was going to need to be present for it.
Yeah. We need it. Like I said, my son is a paramedic, and his wife is a nurse, and my sister is a tech. She does the MRIs, and so while I'm not in the medical field and I watched them. And I watched the hours that they pulled and, the stress that they were under. And so to say that you didn't get sick is definitely amazing because that means you were building up your immune system, but also your emotions were not.
I will attribute that was a huge part. I think that was I think the main factor during COVID was fear.
Yeah.
Because that really, I mean, it was palpable in some houses that I'd walk into, or even just talking to people. So I don't know. You know me a little bit, but I've always had one of those attitudes of no fear. I
Yeah.
kind of always grew up with that, so I think that definitely helped.
Yes, absolutely.
But being also, like we talked about, how being in EMS and 911. I've been doing this for my whole lifetime since I was 18, and I think you kind of build a shield with that. Whether for better or for worse, you kind of build that armor around you, and it's definitely useful in situations.
Yeah. Good. Okay, so you stayed healthy and you were seeing all kinds of things, but you were already into, you know, herbs and supporting your family with herbs.
Mm-hmm.
And so you told me how there were times when you would just kind of give a little bit of hope to some of these
Sure.
patients that you were seeing by going, hey, there are things that you can do. Like, I was thinking when you were telling the story of them looking through the blinds and it's being dark in there, and I'm going, oh, and they needed to get outside. They needed to get out in the fresh air and the sunshine, and and so you were even giving some tips on things like that. It's not all just herbs. It's not just take an herb. It's healthy. It's, exercising, moving, water, all those things that we talk about. But tell me more about, okay, so you're in this situation of you're seeing this happen, and it moves you from just helping your family to broadening that. Tell me how that transpired.
So I think the final spark that lit the fire under me, still like a touchy subject for me. I had a friend of mine that I worked on the department with. We came up together. He was. It's funny because I'm Hispanic and he's Hispanic too, so we would always meet for lunch every once in a while, or we'd meet up. We'd be doing training. We'd have a lunch break. We'd go to the Mexican restaurant. Everybody else would go to like Chick-fil-A or something.
I prefer the Mexican restaurant. I'm not Mexican, but I prefer that.
Yeah, us too. But he died from COVID, and that's funny how hard it is to talk about it. But he got sick, and I didn't know about it. I actually had another friend of mine reach out and say, "Hey, Mario's sick. He's really bad off. If you could reach out to him," and I had no idea. So of course I texted him, called him. He texted me back the day later, and I said, I've got some stuff I can do. I'll come sit with you. I mean, I've got all the herbal, I've got all the supplementation, I've got all the things you need. And he's like, no, I think I'm going to wait it out and see how it goes. So the next day, he had texted me and said, I texted him. I'm sorry. I texted him. I said, hey, how's it going? And he said, well, I'm on my way to the hospital. And so that was basically the last time I had talked to him. So within 48 hours, he was gone.
Oh, wow.
But that was that time frame when I don't know how much, obviously, a little bit about the protocols that were hospital based, but they were designed to kill people. I can't even mince words on that, but the remdesivir and then the Versed and then the ventilator, there's too many people died from that. And he was one of them.
Oh man!
But that really lit the fire for me. I basically said never again. On that, would I not be able to get to somebody in time or have the stuff that they need? An interesting time after, my wife, she knows that I've got this surplus of stuff in the house. Even now, Eastern white pine needle needles, all of the star anise and the supplementation. And we've got bottles of stuff, and I have a whole herbal library of stuff that is here in case I need it. And it might be over the top, but like I said, I just won't get caught like that again.
So you're prepared for yourself, but you say you have extra for when those friends and family are going, hey, I need help. And hopefully nothing like COVID will ever happen again. But we can't be, we don't want to live in fear. I'm like you. I'm like, I don't want to live in fear. But there's also being wise and being prepared. And, that's one of those things where that's one of those things that we teach and talk about at the herbal boot camp was, what do you got in your cabinet? Sometimes it's like that garlic that we went to, or, I remember teaching herbology, and it would transition around the year so that there were 3 classes per year. And the winter class was always fun because one of the assignments was to go foraging. And I would have students, in like Canada sometimes, or, the Michigan, Minnesota, those really cold states. And it would come around and it would be like, there's snow on the ground. And so many of them would come back and say, there's nothing for me to forage. And there were a few who would go, oh, I went out and I got the pine needles or the pine bark or the whatever. And I'm like, there's always something available.
Always something.
Always something.
Yeah. And that's exactly right. I mean, and other than being prepared, how that sparked me to be so prepared, like that really pushed me to get my certifications. And that's when I started with Trinity.
Yeah.
And I did the natural health certification, and then I did the master herbalist at the same time. I really wanted to get it done. I just wanted to get it done so I could start. And even now in fact, I just took on a new client today. I've got a handful of clients. I mean, they need help. They have no idea. But it's funny because a lot of them have been through all the doctors and the testing, and they're just kind of told like, we don't know, or we're going to try this or this direction. So it's interesting how, like say, herbalism and natural medicine, even though it should be here anyway for us, it's not old stuff, or it is old stuff, but it should be with us now.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, it's the original stuff. We call it alternative medicine now, but it's really original medicine. It's what we had, and it really works. So you're now, you're like you said, about 2 years to retirement, but you're going to keep, going until retirement, but you're still taking on clients and you're helping people. So are there any particular people that you're going, I'm drawn to this kind of, to help this person or help that person? Are you reaching out? Who are you helping?
So most of my clients, I think, is just kind of word of mouth right now. So it's a hard transition though, I think, because I've been in Western allopathic medicine for so long. I mean, I've worked in rescue, 911. I've worked in the hospital. I've worked in clinics. I even did a little stint as like a lab technician. So just doing all these things, I think that it's really hard for me a little bit to transition all the way back over to natural medicine.
Yeah.
But most of my clients is word of mouth. I kind of use there are some cases where I use a hybrid of both sides. Just my opinion, I think that the ultimate end all be all for an individual patient would be a hybrid of both, would be natural medicine and allopathic medicine. They've got the great diagnostics, they've got stuff like that.
Absolutely.
But we can bring in the nutrition, and we can bring in the God-given plants and herbs and all the stuff that's necessary. So I think that's what I'm doing. As far as my basic clients, though, again, like it's just people at word of mouth. I mean, I do basically like an assessment up front. I'll go to actually, I'm a mobile service right now.
Okay.
I'll go to their house, but what I'm looking for is like, what kind of water are they drinking? What's in their pantry? Are they sleeping? One example is I had a lady that her bed was backed up to the kitchen.
Yeah.
But the refrigerator was right where her head laid every night.
Oh.
So she was getting, I think, a little bit too much of that EMF, you want to call it EMF, or just that electricity.
Right.
So just in moving her bed, not going to say cured, but it helped her insomnia. They got rid of it.
That's amazing. We don't think about how certain things affect us. And wow.
Yeah. So it's interesting. It's fun. I like doing it, and like I said, I'm more of a researcher too. So I always like gathering the information, researching it, and able to present to somebody. Here's a solution. Here's something that you can use.
Yes.
Not just go and get a new pill and combat that side effect. So,
yes, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, and that's what I really do love is the idea of, instead of trying to separate and go, there's only medical, allopathic, or herbal, naturopathic, or whatever. Can we not like bridge that? Because, when because it's been almost a year ago, like just days, I had to have emergency appendectomy. And, I'm sitting here going, well, I could have been adamant of, no, I'll go home and take herbs, which is what I typically do. I mean, right. That's just my thing is I'm like, I've grown, I've done natural almost all of my life. I didn't know about herbs until I got into my adulthood. And, I was having babies and children, but we did the chiropractic, we did,
right.
Eating healthy kind of stuff. So when I went to the emergency room because I was experiencing that certain pain and, lo and behold, it is appendicitis, I actually prayed because I was like, okay, I could go home and I could do herbs, which is not recommended. And it was almost like Holy Spirit told me right then, he was like, no, you are staying and you are getting the emergency care that you need, So that is one of those things where I'll even tell when I had my herb shop, people would come in and they would say things like, oh, I don't, wish we just only did herbs or something. I'm like, no, really not. Because if there are certain situations, you need the medical field. So, sure. When you look forward and you go, okay, 2 years from now, and you're going, okay, I'm going to be transitioning. Are you still going to be mobile? Are you still going to just, combine the two together?
So I think that my goal is always evolving. I wish I could. That's what I think my wife always tells me to find one thing and stick with it. So I got so many irons on the fire, and it's getting close to picking one. I have a couple things that I'm looking at right now. One of the things is possibly doing something with the herbals, in addition to like a CBD type combination.
Oh, yeah.
So there's a company here that makes their own tinctures and balms and lotions and stuff like that, and they use mostly CBD. So I'm kind of in talks right now, and hoping to sit down soon and bring some of the herbal knowledge into it. So especially when you have things like people have chronic pain and people have insomnia, stress, high cortisol levels, stuff like that. I think a good combo of all those things would be great for a lot of my clients. Even in some of the recommendations that I do, it does involve showing them like how CBD works, how herbals can assist or even enhance some of that. And even when it comes down to like detoxification. So there's a lot of different things that I'm kind of looking at. But I still would think that in 2 years, I'll probably still be doing a mobile type service because I do like going to the people's houses and seeing what's their everyday life look like.
Yeah.
And it's definitely a service I think that we kind of need because, we think about medicine, we outsource a lot of stuff to doctors. Our healthcare, we just outsource it. Well, my leg hurts. Okay, well, I'm going to go to the doctor. And so I hope that I can kind of bring some of that to people. I don't want them to outsource everything completely to me, but I'd rather sit down and educate them for an hour.
Yeah.
And show them why this stuff works and what it's for than send them to someone else. So, but I think I'll still stay mobile for a while.
That's cool. And what you said about, sitting down and educating and talking to people, seeing, their living conditions. Now, that's not something I'm going to do, but I will ask. I will ask those questions. But, that's really cool that you can do that. But it's like what you said is really the heart of being a natural wellness practitioner is you're not just there to come in and go, well, here, take an herb for that, and then disappear
Right.
out the door. It's a journey of helping our clients take back their health, not be afraid of what's going around, whatever it is at this moment in time, and having the knowledge and the arsenal to go to. I mean, like you, I've got a bookshelf to my left, and I'm like, I've got a bookshelf over there too, and it's like I'm like, I've got all these resources of, well, if I don't know the answer, I can go look and look it up, and so that helps. But it's not just, here's a Band-Aid, or here's an herb, or here's a whatever, call me in 2 weeks. It's walking that journey with them so that they kind of are, have the knowledge and the skills and the understanding of what to do for themselves. And to be able to go, hey, I don't have an herb. Let me go get that garlic out of the, because that's what I did. That's what you did in that situation when you're going, well, what do I do? Well, garlic is one of the best things. Now, I just pulled up, so that was, I was looking at your website, which is called The Nature Medic. So if y'all want to learn more about Greg and what he does, and maybe talk to him, because he's really got some fascinating information and all that, you can go to his website, which is, again, The Nature Medic. And we'll have the link for that. Do you offer consultations to people that you don't go to? Is there a way, so if our people are listening and they're going, hey, I want to.
I do. I mean, I've done several consults or client sessions, as I call them, just on Zoom or even FaceTime. It just really is whatever is convenient for the person.
Okay.
I get it. Everybody's busy, and I mean, I'm busy too. But I don't mind setting up a client session with somebody, whether it's in person. I mean, obviously, there's some stuff I can't do just yet on Zoom because a lot of the stuff that I learned in school, like muscle response testing, things like that, are kind of. I'm not Judy Masters yet, so I can't. I can't do it on
harder,
the phone. But no, I definitely would rather do an in-person session. But like I said, I have done a few on Zoom, and there are times too when it's just they just want information. They either have already the diagnostics from their doctor, or they have their lab results, stuff like that. And I can go over some of that just from my knowledge of being in that system too. So that's kind of nice.
Believe me, there are so many times when I'll call my son or my daughter-in-law and go, I need help understanding whatever this report or, this information, and understanding it. So that would be invaluable for a lot of people to be able to talk to someone who understands both the medical.
And I've even told people too, which I know that one lady, she was a nurse already, but she wanted more knowledge, and we went over some lab results with her too. She ended up taking there's a course online I think you can take for like lab result interpretation. And she took that course, and I actually have bounced a few ideas off of her also, being that she's got the certification. So I kind of can go through her for a little bit of stuff too. So
having colleagues, I mean, that's what we do is we go to others who have a little bit more knowledge in one area so that we can, fill the gaps a little bit. That's definitely for sure part of the profession is to do that. So you're you make your own herbs, but you also you're looking at the CBD, which I really love, because I do know how that can help a lot of people who are dealing with chronic issues.
Right.
And you also last time we were talking about, like, there was another line. Was it a detox?
Sure.
Yeah.
So that's one of the main things that's kind of come up in the last, that's a year or so, maybe the last 2 years, is a lot of people are looking for ways to detoxify. So whether it's heavy metals, or it's molds or toxins, or parasites, even parasite glands type stuff also. So I have used all of them. I hate to recommend something that I haven't used myself. And so the one I found so far that's probably the best out there would be it's Touchstone Essentials. They have a parasite blend, and they also have a heavy metals, molds, and toxins. And so it's a simple detox. I like this one in particular because I call it a gentle detox. We actually use it here at home for the kids, and we're in our last week of parasite cleansing here at home.
Oh, wow. So this is something that is safe for kids, because a lot of times that's good to know, because a lot of times,
safe.
Yeah, detoxing is like, no, don't do that with kids. It's too strong, but this is safe. Yeah. It's gentle.
It's safe and gentle.
Yeah,
for sure. It's not going to make them sick. They're not going to have GI upset or anything like that. My kids, they do it every night. Like I said, we're on week 3 right now. But we also started with, I just have come up with a 3-step process for detoxification. So we give you the building blocks up front. So we do the chlorella, spirulina. So you get all the natural herbs and vitamins and essentials you need out of that before we do the parasite cleanse or before we do the detox. So that way you're not going to have those die-off symptoms. Like if you are doing a parasite cleanse, obviously we're trying to kill something in your body. So we know that when things die off, they release certain chemicals and, bad stuff.
And a lot of people feel so bad when they start doing those. Yeah. They feel so sick, so bad. So what you're saying is...
Well, that causes people to stop doing it also. And so you need a good 14 days, I think, of a full cleanse before you really start getting results.
Would you do 14 days of these spirulina and the chlorella, which are also builders? They're gentle cleansers. They're gentle blood detoxifiers and things like that, but they're builders. They actually help build and support the system. So are you saying you do like 14 days of that before you move to the parasite cleanse?
So as far as like
or is that individual?
So it'd be individual. So you'd actually do a week. So I did 7 days. So actually, it's funny. I have the guys at the fire station doing this right now. They're done with their parasite cleanse, but now they're on to the zeolite.
Okay.
So the zeolite, which is I'll talk about here in a second, but the chlorella spirulina we do for about 7 days. You do 2 a day, just trying to build the body, build the immune function. It does take some of the stuff out also, but what you're doing is I think you're weakening the parasites if you're going to get rid of parasites. Then you hit them with the parasite cleanse, and that's got things like wormwood, all the black walnut, stuff like that, the things that are necessary to kill off the parasites in all of their life stages, right?
Right.
And that's a 14-day cleanse. Then we'll do the zeolite after that. We'll do that for about 7 days. And zeolite, you have 2 types. You have a digestive, and then you have a cellular. And zeolite is a interesting, what do you call it? A molecule. It's an interesting device that they've created that comes from volcanic ash. And as it tumbles through the body, it is basically like activated charcoal, and it takes in and encompasses the bad stuff.
Yeah.
And you just pass it out as waste products. So it's interesting.
So you're getting rid of it, and you're not feeling bad at the same time.
Right. So because it basically it closes over top of it. So as it's coming out, it's not absorbing anywhere else. It's just basically coming out. Yeah. So you're looking at a 3-week process. I know that seems like a long time. And some people have said that, but all the guys at work at the station, they've all completed their 14-day parasite cleanse. They're on the zeolite now.
But you feel so much better.
Yeah, I think they do. And I haven't had any of them say like, oh, I feel so bad or I feel sick or whatever. They're still out there running around, still working out. Nobody's had to make any modifications. So
that's awesome.
So it's working good.
So what kind of situation, I mean, when you're thinking about that, you're going, I'm thinking about people who might need to do a cleanse, and some people don't even think they want to do a cleanse. It sounds like, why would I want to do a cleanse? What kind of issues would you look at? And, this can just be for example, but, what kind of issues would point to you going, hey, that person might really need to cleanse and do a detox or something like that?
So I think a couple things. The number one thing, and it's kind of like I mentioned, I like going to people's houses because that really gives me a lot of information, right? And I'll even test their water and see what's in it. Look in their pantry, look at the stuff they eat and where they're getting it from, that kind of stuff. So sometimes that's enough to indicate that they could probably use a parasite cleanse. But it's also things like, do you clench or grind your teeth at night? That's a big one. Do you have insomnia? Do you have abdominal pain? Do you have things like GI issues, like upset stomach? Do you have diarrhea? Do you have excess gas? Stuff like that. I mean, it's a whole checklist that I kind of go through.
Yeah.
And we start kind of head to toe. But honestly, like I said, just kind of identifying, where do they work? What kind of work do they do? Are they exposed to? And it's not just parasites. Obviously, it's in some cases it's heavy metals and toxins. I mean,
right.
Mold. And again, that's another indicator too. There are times too. I'll poke my head in their attic just to kind of get a general idea. And we did have one lady that had she did have some black mold.
Oh man.
Yeah. So now I can't say for sure that's why she was having issues she was having.
Yeah.
But she got a remediation company to come out and get rid of it. And she says she's had a better, what'd she say? Having a better go at life now.
Oh, so well, that's something, because I've had several clients with mold issues, and man, that can be something else to deal with. So
yeah, it causes so many different symptoms, and
yeah.
But again, like I said, our goal, and I think you said the same thing as a natural medicine practitioner. It's not just come sit down. Okay, you're having insomnia. Let's just fix your sleep. We need to figure out why you're having trouble sleeping,
right?
Or why are you waking up at 3 a.m. every night? So I think there's things there. Then that's me also. I don't. If you want to do that, go see your doctor.
Mm-hmm.
He'll give you medication. You'll be on your way. But I'm more about let's figure out the root of what's going on.
Well, and that's the thing is, if we don't figure out the root cause of what's causing, because you can go to the doctor, and that's we're not saying anything bad about going to the doctor. It's just, if you don't realize you've got mold in your attic, you're just going to keep dealing with the same issues. If you don't realize you have parasites and get rid of them, you're going to keep dealing with the same issues. And so we're after, instead of, just trying to get rid of the symptoms, go in and find, why are the symptoms even there? And then we have these awesome herbs that and other supplements that can help. But there are also times when I've told people, just go drink some water. It's like go drink some water. Sure. You need water. So it's not always about take an herb or do this or take, but they are there. And that's what we love about it. But it's also the, do you need to go outside and get in the sun? Do you need to go drink some good, clean water? Do you need to exercise? Mm-hmm. What is it that you need? And it may be some herbs to help supplement you along the way as you're building and strengthening. So, okay.
For sure.
So as we kind of wrap this up, I want to make sure that everybody knows that they can go to your website, the Nature Medic. I think it's the naturemedic.com, and get in touch with you. Now, you also, if anybody is interested, they can work with you through a program. You can guide them on things like that if they want to reach out to you for that. But do you also have links? I think you said you had links that you could share for these products, like the zeolite and the spirulina and the chlorella. Is that something that they could get on their own?
Yeah, so you can get on your own. So if you go to Touchstone Essentials, and actually I think I sent you my link for that. Yeah. It's Detox with Me. Mm-hmm. That would be my store on that page. I'm an affiliate with that.
Okay.
We use that stuff all the time here at home, and friends and family, they all like it too. So another thing that people could do, if we're talking about detoxification, whether it's from the things that we had to get for the last 2 years, some people in some cases, carbon 60 is a great detoxification. It's another way to pull heavy metals and toxins, even in some cases we're talking about like spike proteins and stuff like that. Like it does pull some of that stuff out. It's a good way to pull, just for example, which I've talked to a couple people, is if you have a vaccine injury, they can pull out a lot of those heavy metals.
Oh, wow.
So there is definitely a program out there, a protocol out there. I'm not going to say I have a protocol, but I can definitely guide you along the way and give you some solid recommendations to do that. So, just like we learned in school.
Absolutely.
Favorite instructors.
That's right. So I'm going to say that, yes, you can absolutely click the links and go and find this stuff on your own if you're confident in what you're looking for. But if you're saying, hey, I would like some guidance in this, then I definitely, reach out to Greg, because I think it's not just detoxing and cleansing. That's important. When you're doing a detox and cleanse, having someone else speak into that. Now, I've been in the natural health field for over 20, close to 30 years. So I've seen a lot. And it's like, even for myself, having the knowledge and going, oh, I know what to do. It really does help to have someone else come in and speak in when you're going through a cleansing or something like that, because you're seeing it from a point of view where I'm going, well, I may be missing something because I'm dealing with my own issues. I don't know if that makes sense, but when I'm dealing with, not feel like when I had, the appendectomy and I'm doing the recovery, like my husband would have to come in and say, did you take these herbs? Did you do this? Did you do that? Yeah. And it wasn't that I'm not smart. It was, I was going through it. Yeah. And I needed the outside help. Right. So that's what I'm saying. It's like, Greg can help you. I mean, you could definitely help people with just natural health, is, because like, it's not just, are you going through, do you need a detox? Do you need more energy? Do you need this? What do you need? And Greg can help you with that, because he's got the certification. He's got the training, both in the natural and in the allopathic field, medical field. And so I'm just saying, if this is something that's striking a chord with you, be sure that you reach out to Greg, because instead of just going, hey, let me just buy that, you need the guidance. A lot of times we need the guidance to just help us through, to make sure we're on the right path. So, and that's like you say, sometimes that's all it takes, is just to give out some information, and it makes people more comfortable to be able to understand what they're looking at. Exactly. So before we wrap up, I just want to ask if there is just one thing that you would recommend for people, who are listening. What would that one thing be in taking back their health? What would that be? I think the one thing that I'd recommend, and which I recommend all the time, is to try to take back your house. Figure out what you're drinking out of your tap. Figure out what you're eating that's in your pantry. And if not for yourself, if you have children at home, do it for your kids. Yeah. Our kids, I laugh all the time. We'll go to the store and they've got the Yucca app, and they're looking and like, oh, Daddy, that's bad. That's got 12 additives. I don't want that. We'll put it right back on the shelf. But I think it's just a little bit of knowledge. You don't have to be a natural health practitioner. You don't have to be an herbalist. You don't have to be a researcher. You can decide what you bring into your home, what you put in your refrigerator, and what you're drinking. So I think just by even taking one of those things and fixing them, whether you do like water filtration, or if you just decide to clean up all the additives in your pantry, the red dye 40s and the blue lake 20s, and you know what I mean? Like just getting all that stuff out of there and finding good alternatives. I always tell people about the Yucca app. I'm not an affiliate, but I love it. It works great. You literally walk in the store with your phone. You can scan the barcode. It tells you what's in it. It's YUCA. I'm not an affiliate either. YUKA. KA. I was misspelling it. The little icon has a carrot on it. Yes. So I've got it too. I was just misspelling it, because Yucca is YUCCA, but this app is YUKA. Which is good for you too, but Yes, absolutely. So, Yeah, so that's a really handy tool. And like we both said, neither one of us are affiliates. It's just this is a good app. You just go in and you scan it and it tells you we don't recommend this. And then it gives you alternatives, because honestly, that's probably one of the hardest things that I found is working with my clients is when I start to address food with them and you're saying, hard. Don't eat this, don't eat this, don't eat this. They're left sitting here going, what do I eat?
Yeah. You know? And that's what it is. I mean, we've had similar issues, just even here at home with the kids. I like this. Well, we're not going to eat that anymore. Well, what can I eat? And that's the question. What can I have then?
Yeah.
But there are a lot of great alternatives. Even if it comes down to just example, they want something sweet. Okay, we're going to go get some watermelon, or we're going to get some fruit. And that's a whole other ball game too, because do we want unseeded? Or we want seeded fruits.
Yeah.
You see what I'm getting at.
Oh my goodness. The answer to that question is you want seeded fruits. We don't have time to go into that.
Yeah.
But that's a great
100%.
point. I mean, it's like we've taken out the life when we remove the seed, the ability to have more. And so we've changed our fruit. So if you can get, that's the funny thing is here in Georgia, you probably have the similar in, because you're in Florida from what I remember. In Georgia, we grow a lot of watermelons, and they actually have to grow the seeded watermelons to get the unseeded watermelons to grow.
Right.
But it's, and it's like, but people want unseeded, and I'm sitting here going, no, where's the seeded watermelon?
Yeah, I know. It's a struggle. All I say is look in in Genesis, the first 15 parts of it. It'll tell you all about seeds.
All about seeds. So, and even Jesus is talking about the seeds. So, all right. So, Greg, it has been really great having you. And, y'all need to check Greg out, the Nature Medic, and just see what he can help you with. And if this is something that you're going, hey, I just need somebody, and I'm going to say something, ladies, if you're listening, because I have a female audience, a lot of times men would prefer talking to men. Because in my herb shop, when my dad would be in the store, the men would be like, oh, can I talk to your dad? It was like the conversation was fine, but it was like, oh, can I talk to your dad? And then I had my manager was my son-in-law for a while, and that same thing happened. Oh, I want to talk to him. I want to talk to him.
Yeah.
So if you're listening to this and you're going, oh, it doesn't make a difference. It actually does.
Sometimes.
And it's not that a woman couldn't talk to you. That's not what I'm saying. But this is excellent, because we need more men who are spreading the word about natural health. The women do this a lot, but men, you just have a place here. And so I really appreciate you being here today, Greg. So thanks so much.
Thank you. I appreciate it too.